Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. I noticed that although most of my subscribers and viewers are interested in content related to martial arts, there are quite a few of you interested in Xiu Dao and meditation related concepts as well. Thank you for the positive feedback, both public and private. I find this very encouraging and that drives me to keep posting more content. Also, to those who have a strong Daoist practice experience, you may have noticed that the way I introduce this topic is very systematic. I believe it is the only way to help our community see the whole picture of this practice that was full of mysticism and overwhelming information, combined with a lot of misconception. The systematic way of introducing Xiu Dao will maximize the benefit offered by this system that has been developed for thousands of years. About Daoist documents, I have to say that there are more than 5,000 volumes in total, including both long and short documents. Among those documents, less than 1,000 of them are related to Daoist practice. The rest are related to religious Daoism or other topics. I started reading those documents from my teenage years under the guidance of my family members, teachers, and friends. I can confidently say that I have read every relevant classic document on this practice. Furthermore, regarding new books about Xiu Dao, I'm very selective in what I read because not all of the contemporary books have a value. Based on personal experience, it is impossible to understand Xiu Dao without guidance because those documents were full of jargon. At least, you need someone to point out a productive direction in learning so that you would understand the fundamental principles of Daoism beyond the most popular terms. So, if you have experienced frustration, ambiguity, and incomprehension in learning, that's totally fine since it is caused by the nature of those documents. I totally blame the writing style of those documents and sincerely believe that it can be improved upon. A fundamental and unavoidable topic in both philosophical and religious Daoism is Xing and Ming. Not only is it related to Daoist belief systems such as the meaning of life, but it can also guide our practice. Without understanding those two terms, you cannot claim to be a Daoist practitioner. So let's get started. Topics covered in today's video include 2. Xing and Ming's significance. 3. What can we do in practice? 4. Practice time. And 5. Takeaways. Topic 1. Xing and Ming in Daoism. In ancient Chinese philosophies, the main topic is about life. We can say that Chinese philosophy is the study of life. Life is the subject of different systems, and most of the practice involved in the ancient system have been to adjust, manage, and stabilize of life, so that in expectation we will be able to make our limited life go beyond its boundary and reach the unlimited and infinite being. So, understanding the reality of the universe is not the objective at its face value. Instead, the objective is to find a path to achieve and realize the great Tao, or to be the ideal state of being, an immortal, a sage, a Buddha, and so on. Of course, like I mentioned before, that these terms have specific meanings in each system, and we should not try to interpret them based on commonly held beliefs. Immortal, sage, and or Buddha in ancient Chinese philosophy means that someone has achieved a state that is beyond its limitation and boundary in life. This is why in ancient Chinese philosophy it is believed that everyone has the potential of becoming one of these three. In front of becoming an immortal, sage, or Buddha, everyone is equal. It is, or at least at a certain level, a supernaturalism system, since the meaning of life here depends on the spiritual realm. More specifically, it is the soul-centered view based on modern philosophy standards. Xiu Dao focuses on finding the path to become an immortal through a path that can lead you to go beyond your physical limits and boundary in life. By the way, like I introduced in my prior videos, that the word immortal in Daoism can mean many things. Without clearly defining the meaning of immortal, we won't be able to define the meaning of spiritual realm. In my opinion, immortal is just a metaphorical term, and we should not interpret it literally. Since it is an interesting term, I will introduce it in depth in the future. Now, let's come back to Xing and Ming. Xing means nature. Ming means life. What is nature? Nature in Daoism means the real self, the original one. What is life? Life is our physical existence, our health, and functions. Furthermore, in Daoism, Xing concerns the psychological and the Ming concerns the physiological. Xing and Ming are two important aspects of an individual's destiny. The relation between Xing and Ming is specially emphasized in Daoism as the core concept. Therefore, it is a question that must be answered by someone trained in Xiu Dao. To summarize, Xing and Ming are two terms used in Daoist practice, which describes the relationship between human being and the universe, as well as the mind and the body, or physical function and spiritual well-being, or psychological and physiological aspects, and so on. In Xiu Dao practice, these pairs of terms have a special significance, which leads us to the next topic. Topic 2. Xing and Ming's significance in Xiu Dao. In Xiu Dao, Xing means nature, mind, or spirit. Ming is life, physical function, or activity. Ming also means energy, or primordial energy, to be more specific, because Ming is directly related to the concept of qi, or energy. Now, let me talk about a few prominent historical Daoist figures, their works and statements relevant to Xing and Ming. Qiu from 1148 to 1227 is a prominent figure in Daoist history. He was a disciple of Wang Chongyang, the founder of North Daoist school. Qiu was the most famous among the 7 total reality Daoists of the North. In his famous work, 大丹直指, or Great Elixir Direct Explanation, he said that the principle of golden elixir is just the practice of Xing and Ming. So we can see how important Xing and Ming are in Xiu Dao. Wang Chongyang, a Chinese philosopher, Taoist, and one of the founders of the Total Reality Daoist school in the 12th century, once said that Xing is the primordial spirit, Ming is the primordial energy. Shi Tai, one of the 5,000 patriarchs, in his Huan Yuan Pian, or tablet on revisions to the origin, said, 气是形中命, 心为性内神. This translates to, energy is the life in our body. Mind is the spirit in our nature. Next, let's talk about Zhang Sanfeng. Zhang Sanfeng is an important figure in Daoist history. He was the founder of the Sanfeng school of Daoist. Zhang Sanfeng's name has been misused by many people in recent times, something which I will talk about in a future video. But for now, let's limit our discussion to Xing and Ming. In his book 大道论, or Discussion of Great Dao, he said, 气脉静而内蕴元神，则曰真性；神思静而中长元气，则曰真命。This translates to, the real Xing is the primordial spirit after our energy stabilizes. The real Ming is the primordial energy after our mind stabilizes. Now, let's talk about Zhong Liquan. Zhong Liquan was considered one of the 8 immortals in Daoist history. He once told his disciple 吕洞宾, 一点灵明无畏，性也；一点元气长条，命也。This translates to, Xing is the unhidden spirit. Ming is the continually nourished energy. Simply speaking, in Xiu Dao, Xing and Ming means spirit and energy. Since spirit and energy are the most important entities in Daoism, we can see how important these terms are. By the way, let me remind you of the primordial and the postmordial variations of entities that I introduced in prior videos. This concept can be applied here as well. There is the primordial Xing and Ming as well as postmordial Xing and Ming. In Xiu Dao, we focused on the former, not the latter. For the topic, there are different concepts as well, such as 5 virtues of primordials and 5 harms of postmordials, and they are complicated to talk about. In the interest of time, I will skip them for now and may introduce it in the future. To summarize, the overall practice of Xiu Dao is simply to adjust, manage, and balance Xing and Ming, or spirit and energy. This is why I said in the beginning that without understanding these terms, you can never claim to be practicing Xiu Dao. Topic 3. What can we do in practice? In Xiu Dao, any activity related to cultivating the Xing is called Xing Gong, or practice of the Xing. At the same time, any activity related to improving the Ming is called Ming Gong, or practice of Ming. First, Xing Gong, or practice of Xing, is related to cultivation of one's personality and quality. Very often, it is related to another philosophical concept, virtue. Historically, Daoist practitioners had to study many classic documents in order to understand and respect different standards related to virtue, including its justification. Based on personal research and experience, I believe that, theoretically speaking, virtue itself is the post-modal, while the justification and the rationality of virtue is the primordial concept. One has to understand the justification and the rationality so that our mind and spirit would be able to be nourished in the primordial state. It is my own research result, and it would be great to have verification. That's why Xing Gong, or personal cultivation, is important. Ming Gong, or practice of Ming, is related to one's life. In Xiu Dao, life is improved by medicine, or the refinement of the three treasures, the Jing, Qi, and Shen. Daoist practitioners try to improve the primordial Ming by first working on postmordial life and gradually progressing to nourish the primordial life. I introduced this topic in a prior Xiu Dao video. So the specific activities, procedures to achieve this result is Ming Gong, or the practice of Ming. You may consider any activity that can benefit of life to be Ming Gong. But in the context of Xiu Dao, Ming Gong means a specific set of activities directly related to primordial entities, with the goal of achieving the reverse flow of action. Now, you may be under the impression that Ming Gong, or practice of Ming, is more important than Xing Gong. Well, that is not true at all. Of course, in the initial stage, some schools focus more on Ming Gong, while some others focus more on Xing Gong. However, in Xiu Dao, a key concept in dealing with Xing and Ming is Xing Ming Shuang Xiu, or practice both Xing and Ming equally, which reflects the importance of the relation between Xing and Ming. Since Xing and Ming are two sides of the same coin, they cannot be separated eventually. I can say that all of the Daoist practitioners in history emphasize this concept in practice. A commonly held belief is 命无性而不立，性无命而无依，双修性命是真机。This translates to 命 would not stand without 性，性 would not exist without 命。The real path is the cultivation of both 性 and 命。So, maintain our mind to cultivate our 性, practice our body to improve our 命. Let me repeat again. The ultimate goal in practice is to cultivate 性 and 命 equally. However, in the initial stages, many schools emphasize on cultivation of 性 or mind and spirit. For example, 张三丰 said, 未练还丹先练性，未修大药且修心，心修自然丹信至，性清自然药才生。This translates to cultivate the 性 before practicing the great elixir. Cultivate the 命 before cultivating the great medicine. The great elixir will come naturally after the mind gets cultivated. The great medicine will be generated when the 命 gets purified. Here, Zhang Sanfeng emphasized the importance of cultivation of the mind or spirit. In other words, the importance of Xing Gong. By the way, like I introduced in prior videos, in Zhang Sanfeng's time, around the Yuan and the Ming dynasty, Neo-Confucianism rose in popularity and even became the dominating school of thought during that period. Zhang Sanfeng, along with other Daoist philosophers, scholars, and masters, adapted a great deal of concept and teachings from Neo-Confucianism into Daoist practice, in strengthening the theoretical concept of the Xing Gong. Following this, Neo-Confucianism teaching became a part of a Daoist virtue. Please remember that Ming Gong and Xing Gong overlapping very often. This overlapping part can be a very powerful practice in reality. I will introduce it in a future video. To summarize, Xing Gong and Ming Gong, the practice of mind and body, are two key complementary but unified aspects in Xiu Dao. Topic 4. Practice time. Last time, what I introduced to you is to focus on the whole body while maintaining a stable body structure. If you have incorporated it into your daily practice already, you can move on to the next step, which I will talk about now. If not, please go back to the previous video and practice it. In Xiu Dao practice, you should not skip any step, or the result and the benefit would no longer be the same. Also, there's no rush for you to skip a step. You can always catch up on what you missed before. Life is long. However, if you feel life is short, or if you want to focus on the power of now, then again, I would recommend going back to the prior video, now itself. Having said that, in today's video, I'd like to introduce a new exercise. Assuming you are in a stable body structure and focusing on the whole body already, shift your focus to the lower dantian area. Please keep in mind that the lower dantian area is not the surface of your lower stomach. Rather, it is the inside of your lower abdomen. At this moment, it is not necessary to be very precise about the dantian's location. Just relax your mind and be aware the lower dantian area. As for the breathing, just breathe naturally for now. You are welcome to write down your experience after you practice in the comments section. I will answer your questions if time permits. To quickly recap the process so far, relax your body, relax your mind, focus on the whole body, beware of the lower dantian area, breathe naturally. After well, open your eyes. That's it. Topic 5. Takeaways. Again, a lot of topics have been introduced in such a short video. Xing and Ming have been introduced along with other significance in Daoism. Xing and Ming are very important in Xiu Dao. You need to understand them before in order to practice Xiu Dao correctly. Theoretical background information about Xing and Ming has been elaborated. A simple exercise of Xiu Dao has been explained. So that's end today's video. Thanks for watching, see you next time and enjoy your practice.